We're kicking off today with Monday Night Raw, as this week's show saw 3 huge stars declare for the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble match, with CM Punk making his involvement official. Fresh off of last week's win over Seth Rollins on Raw's Netflix debut, Punk kicked off this week in San Jose and acknowledged those working hard to put out the Los Angeles Fires. Punk circled back to his win last week and, much like after his Hell in a Cell win over Drew McIntyre, declared he was done with Seth Rollins and turned his attention to John Cena. With a nod to their past rivalry, Punk shared that he'll join Cena in the Men's Rumble match and aspires to do what he failed to do last year by winning the match. Punk wants to fulfill his dream of headlining WrestleMania, but as he called for his music to play to end the segment, Seth Rollins' theme played and the Visionary emerged. Punk questioned why can't Rhea Ripley ever interrupt him, which got a laugh, as the best in the world is a big fan of Mommy. Rollins said that last week's match was the worst high-profile showdown he'd lost and declared he would have another chance to hurt Punk as he also entered the Royal Rumble. Drew McIntyre joined the pair and his promo kicked off a brawl between Punk and Rollins, though McIntyre opted not to get physically involved as his interest is on Roman Reigns. McIntyre believes Reigns is playing chess, which everyone else is playing checkers, and entered the men's match, bringing the total of confirmed entrants to 7. In addition to these 3, the match on February 1st will include John Cena, Jey Uso, LA Knight, and Roman Reigns, a star-studded lineup just like Raw's opening segment. The segment not only saw a Rumble entrance, but hinted at the larger story at play, the potential return to power of Roman Reigns if he wins the men's match. It'll be interesting to see if this story, like many others in the Triple H story, collides with the larger bloodline angle, as that appears to be the endgame for McIntyre as it stands. What did you think of this segment, and have you got a favorite to win the Men's Royal Rumble match? Share your thoughts down in the comments. It was last week that Chad Gable confronted Adam Pearce and demanded a match with any luchador, and this week former AEW star Penta accepted the open challenge. Dubbed the worst kept secret by Michael Cole, Penta, who also has a history in AAA, TNA, and Lucha Underground, arrived to a thunderous ovation and was ready to face the Olympian. Pat McAfee said that Penta had been too big of a signing to keep secret, and it was good WWE didn't insult the fans by pretending that nobody saw this debut coming. The 2 veteran competitors delivered a fantastic match, with Gable looking to take Penta's high-flying offense away by targeting his knee. There were some ugly spots here or there, but one can chalk them up to debut nerves, and Penta recovered nicely to continue the match and did a great job selling his damaged leg. Penta absorbed everything Gable had, including some overhead suplexes, and after a backstabber and sacrifice armbreaker, secured the win with the Penta driver. Post-match, Penta cut a promo thanking the fans and promised a new era for him and WWE before closing with his trademark catchphrase. The presentation of Penta is already top tier, as he already looks and feels like a main eventer, and WWE showcased him as a huge acquisition. The match also reminded fans that Gable's in-ring work is second to none, making for a strong match and successful debut for the masked star. Before Raw, WWE dropped a line of Penta merch complete with shorts, hoodies, and even a replica mask, giving fans a chance to share their love for his Cero Miedo mantra. Penta has worked as a face and a heel several times since entering the ring in 2004, and at the time his AEW run ended, he was a babyface with the promotion. PW Insider reports that Penta will be pushed as a fan favorite for the time being, which was always likely given the buzz around his arrival. With that said, the report adds that WWE is also planning for the Lucha star to portray something of a tweener down the line, instead of a fully fledged babyface or an all-out heel. Penta has used Cero Miedo as his nickname in the past, which means zero fear, and WWE has already begun using the phrase for Penta, adding that it's not just a catchphrase, but a code he lives by. In terms of debuts, this could not have gone better for Penta, but the task now is for WWE to maintain his momentum after this week's impressive debut. The months-long battle between Finn Balor and Damian Priest wrote its latest chapter on Raw when the pair squared off in a street fight in the main event. A brawl around ringside saw Priest deliver a broken arrow from the stands and through 2 tables, leaving Balor in need of medical attention. As medics ushered Balor away on a stretcher, Priest dealt with JD McDonough and Carlito in the ring before driving Balor back to the ring and continued his attack. Before he could finish him off, Carlito and McDonough got involved again, and a recovered Balor delivered a coup de grace that only scored him a 2 count. The War Raiders fought off McDonough and Carlito, and even with a chair wrapped around his head, Priest delivered South of Heaven, but only for a 2 count. Balor drove Priest through a table with coup de grace, but his former tag partner fired back by tackling Finn from the timekeeper's position before hitting a razor's edge through a table. Another South of Heaven scored Priest the win in by far the best match of their feud, and could be the final match in their long-running rivalry. This match saw some great spots, and while the stretcher felt a bit drawn out, everything that came after was awesome, thanks in part to a fired-up crowd. The two men delivered once again, and Priest's win means both can look ahead to new directions if this is indeed the end of their feud. Karrion Kross revealed to The Miz that the Wyatt Six had been moved to Smackdown in the transfer window, ending the faction's feud with the Final Testament for the time being. Now, this promo certainly suggested that this feud is not officially done, but it makes sense for the angle to be put on hold for the time being. Kross has picked up a lot of momentum in this feud, and having one final blow-off match at this time that the Wyatts would likely win would have undone a lot of that buzz around Kross. Instead, Kross can continue to build momentum on Raw before WWE goes back to this angle in the future, and this was a change that fans certainly didn't see coming. But what does the future look like for the Wyatt Six on SmackDown? Well, for one, Braun Strowman is on the blue brand, and the group could either feud with him or try and recruit him. The Bloodline is SmackDown's top faction, and it was at the Pat McAfee show last year that Triple H called the idea of a feud between the two groups intriguing. There's also DIY, the reigning tag team champions, and it'll be interesting to see if Dexter Lumis has some kind of interaction with Johnny Gargano. Perhaps Alexa Bliss could return to SmackDown as part of the Wyatt Six, and if so, it'd put her on the same brand as talent she has a history with, such as Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. No explanation was given for this change, but a tease on Twitter from the Wyatts included the Bible passage John 13:7, which states, "What I am doing you do not understand, but you will understand later." This seems to be the group's way of telling fans that things are okay and an explanation is coming, as there's a lot of questions about this move and the future of the Wyatt Six. With WrestleMania 41 less than 100 days away, plans for the show are coming together, and one name fans are interested to see in Allegiant Stadium is Jade Cargill. The self-proclaimed unicorn of pro wrestling is expected to return to the ring soon, as PW Insider reports that Cargill was training yesterday at the Performance Center in Orlando. This is the second consecutive week Jade has been training at the facility, as she spent most of last week training there as well, and it's believed her training is prepping for a big return. Cargill is expected to be back for the WrestleMania 41 season, as WWE typically sends talent to the PC to train before returning from their injuries. Cargill's mystery attacker is expected to be decided on soon, and the angle will continue with Jade's return, with two different pitches being planned by creative for the big reveal. Jade vs. Bianca Belair has been rumored for WrestleMania 41, and how WWE brings Cargill back will make the plans clear as to whether the Storm and the EST will battle in April. One idea behind the mysterious attack on Jade is that it allowed for WWE to change the women's tag team champions without either she or Belair taking a loss. This has allowed for Jade and Bianca to remain strong as the team irons out their WrestleMania plans and set up a potential singles match for this April in Las Vegas. Interestingly, WWE still recognizes the current women's tag title reign as one single uninterrupted run, and WWE's website also acknowledges Naomi's journey to being champion. Naomi is listed next to Belair though, not Jade Cargill, and time will tell who is revealed to be Jade's attacker and where her story goes from there. During her promo on last week's SmackDown, Tiffany Stratton demanded that people put respect on her name with verbiage that sounded familiar to some fans. On Twitter, a fan shared footage of Mandy Rose demanding for respect on her name during her NXT Women's title reign, and the fan called Stratton's comment a Mandy Rose mention. In response, Rose shared some thinking emojis suggesting that she's interested in hearing what Stratton has to say, or possibly getting in the ring with her. It's been over 2 years since Rose was cut from WWE, and could the new WWE Women's Champion be what brings Rose back to the ring? Time will tell. On last week's Collision, the show ended with an all-out brawl that saw the Learning Tree, Rated FTR, the Death Riders, the Outrunners, and Powerhouse Hobbs all get involved. After the show, Tony Khan announced a 12-man tag team match for Collision Maximum Carnage this week, though there's been a major backlash to this announcement. Many have argued that the idea of the Death Riders teaming up with the Learning Tree makes no sense, as Jon Moxley's group is trying to take over AEW by taking out everyone. The Death Riders angle has already proven polarizing for fans, and putting the group with Chris Jericho, who is also polarizing, is doing neither side any favors. Some fans feel it's time for Chris Jericho to scale back his time in the ring, if not retire altogether, as fans have simply grown tired of seeing Jericho be a focus for years now. Moxley's crew have vowed to make AEW into something new, which makes their pairing with Jericho, a staple of AEW since day one and its inaugural world champion, the more bizarre. For many, Jericho is symbolic of the problems AEW has, and on Twitter, some pointed out that Moxley's alleged plan is to create new stars, and now he's teaming with the 54-year-old Jericho. On Twitter, some compared this to 2019 WWE, a dismal time that saw Roman Reigns covered in dog food, Dean Ambrose get buried, and the 6-second end of Kofi Kingston's WWE title reign. On Collision, Jericho faced Dax Harwood in a match that simply didn't click according to fans, with many pointing to the contest as another sign that AEW's steam is running out. This Backlash is the latest blow to AEW as the company has lost a significant portion of its audience when it comes to ticket sales and overall buzz around the company. With that in mind, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Tony Khan could change the match or cancel it altogether to try to win back favor from the AEW faithful. Khan could also have a huge swerve in mind, though this would be a risk of its own, as such a move could cause even more fans to turn away from what AEW is offering. If the match goes ahead, AEW will need to deliver something big, and we can only anticipate what the fan response will be following this week's edition of Collision. Rhea Ripley's Women's World Title celebration was interrupted by Nia Jax, who declared herself for the Women's Royal Rumble and teased using that to face Ripley at WrestleMania 41. Bayley arrived and brought the fight to Nia in another tease of a Smackdown woman moving to Raw, and could this have been a sign of the top of Raw's women's division moving forward? As for Ripley, she's getting pops typically reserved for the likes of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, or in the past John Cena, Stone Cold, and The Rock. From her entrance theme to her presentation to her undeniable popularity with the fans, Ripley is a bona fide star in WWE and has worked for every bit of success. During a recent interview with Rolling Stone, Bad Bunny shared that a future Backlash PLE would be coming to Mexico, but the award-winning artist may have spoken prematurely. In an update from PW Insider, it said there's no plans for that event to emanate from Mexico, as fans in the country will just have to wait for a major event from WWE. Since their first collision in June of last year, Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser have developed one of the hardest-hitting, most intense rivalries currently unfolding in WWE. This week, the pair continued their war during Raw's second show on Netflix, and it was inevitable that the bodies of both men would be reddened by welts and bruises. Kaiser tried to use Sheamus' shillelagh to score a cheap win, but the Irish superstar caught him with a jumping knee, and Kaiser's mockery of Sheamus resulted in him taking a brogue kick. This marked a win for Sheamus, who celebrated with Pat McAfee after the match before coming face-to-face with Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker. A pull-apart confrontation hinted that Sheamus will be returning to the IC title picture after this week's match, a strong contest between two of the workhorses fans can see on Raw. Fans may have criticized their lack of a match on last week's show, but Sheamus and Kaiser more than made up for it during this week's war in San Jose. World Heavyweight Champion Gunther was as confident as ever as he made his way to the ring, but before he could say much of any substance, he was interrupted by Jey Uso. Jey challenged Gunther to a title match for Saturday night's main event on January 25th in San Antonio, and Gunther was his typical condescending self. Undeterred, Jey said he bets on himself every day and will take the World Heavyweight title in another strong effort on the mic from Uso. He told the story of a single star who is proving his doubters wrong, and he'll have the chance to do just that should he beat one of the best and most decorated wrestlers of his generation. The fact that he just interrupted Gunther and staked his claim to a title match with no build or explanation why is okay, given that 30 superstars will soon compete for the same opportunity. As for whether Jey will be given the win so close to WrestleMania, that's hard to say, but Uso versus Gunther will be a collision of two of Raw's biggest and brightest stars. It was during the backstage promo between The Miz and Karrion Kross that Sami Zayn arrived to predict that he saw Miz and Kross falling apart. Miz mocked Sami for never being a world champion, and this resulted in a match between the two being made for the show. A brief back and forth saw The Miz hang with Zayn before the honorary Uso rocked him with a haluva kick and Blue Thunder Bomb to seal the win. This match may have just been an excuse to get both men on the show and in the ring, but it was a solid match, with Zayn earning what amounted to a decent enhancement victory. On the July 2nd, 2024 edition of NXT, Tyler Bate suffered an injury during a tag team match, pitting himself and Pete Dunne against Hank Walker and Ted Ledger. According to PW Insider, Bate is expected to return to action sooner after previously undergoing surgery for his torn pectoral muscle. In addition to healing up, Bate has used his time away to revamp his look, adding intrigue to his return, and we'll have to see what the Brit has in store for when he's eventually back. Backstage, Seth Rollins shared he'd met with Adam Pearce, and the match with Drew McIntyre has been made for Raw. New NXT champion Oba Femi was spotlighted in the crowd, as was Bayley, who got an idiot chant going aimed at Michael Cole in the Role Models' second Raw appearance in 2 weeks. Bayley will challenge Tiffany Stratton for the women's title on Smackdown this Friday, but should she lose, expect the Role Model to make a new home on Raw. On Raw, WWE confirmed that the New Day will return to action next week, and in a tweet, WWE apologized to the fans for this announcement. The pair haven't competed on Raw since before their big heel turn on Big E, and the duo can expect another frosty reception during the upcoming show. And we're ending with Raw, and it was the Queen of the Ring tournament last year that Lyra Valkyria defeated Dakota Kai, and this week, the Valkyrie went 2-0 in tournament action with a historic win. Not only did Valkyria beat Kai on Raw, but she became the first women's Intercontinental Champion in the process, cementing her name in the history books. A hard-hitting match of two great NXT exports saw Valkyria hit her sit-out powerbomb, which is easily one of the best in the business. As for Kai, she proved in this tournament that she could be featured in the ring more frequently than she is, and the new theme song made it feel like the beginning of a singles run for Kai. And that was this week's Raw, which according to WrestleVotes was more reflective on how the show will normally feel rather than the massive premiere of last Monday. While the show didn't have all the pizzazz and technology from the Intuit Dome, the show still had the fresh new vibe fans have experienced since the move to Netflix. But what did you make of the show? Let us know down in the comments.